With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Let's Talk About Sex.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Let's Talk About Sex, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com, and I am your host, Estela Rodriguez-Jebril, licensed clinical therapist and the Muslim sex coach. And we are live here on Sky Channel 752 and across Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And I want to invite all of you to join in on tonight's discussion and get the advice that you want, and do so by calling into the studio on 01-924-231-083. And remember that standard network rates do apply. So make sure that you do have the bill payer's permission before you call in. You can also ask your questions and share your thoughts in confidence by using WhatsApp and messaging us at 07-585-835-105. And if you forget those numbers, just look on the screen and you'll see them right there. So let's get started on today's topic. Today, we're talking about experimentation, how to discover what actually turns you on. What do you do with your sexual energy if you're not married? How do you fully tap into your sexual energy and express it? Are you ready? Yeah, let's get started. The best part of understanding your sexual energy is that it's this natural high that you have access to. It is so possible to experience a natural high. Seriously, no intoxicants needed. Sexual intimacy increases the oxytocin in your brain. That's the happy hormone. So many believe that cultivating your sexual energy will result in haram. Guess what? That's not true. Well, without the right knowledge and without understanding yourself, yes, you can step into the wrong actions that may lead to haram. And that's why talking about sex is vital. Talking about sex doesn't lead to haram, and not talking about sex can definitely result in making wrong choices for yourself because of the lack of knowledge. Now, I am just so blown away by all of the emails and all of the messages of support that I keep getting. It's just so heartwarming to get these messages and these emails. Keep sending them in, please. It's such proof that we need this platform. Like, we need a platform that's going to normalize the topic of sex for us as Muslims, making it just so much easier and so much more comfortable to talk about. And that's why we're here. So, do you want to know what turns you on? If you're not sure what it is, you're not alone. Many people don't actually know how to explore their sexual turn-ons, and it's because they've been afraid to explore them. Now, when I work with couples in therapy and in my coaching practice, I hear about how people struggle to figure out what they like and what they want, all because it's such a challenge communicating it. So communicating these things to your spouse is so important. How about, I share with you some ways that can help you explore what turns you on and how to talk about it, and how to be able to talk about it with your spouse, and most importantly, how to use that energy, how to tap into that energy. Does that sound good? Okay, let's get started. Now, the first thing to keep in mind and to know is that you don't want to assume anything. Don't assume that what turns you on will be the same as what turns on your spouse. You're two totally different people. And the goal is never to mesh two people into becoming one. You don't want to become identical to your spouse, and you don't want your spouse to become identical to you. You want to be able to embrace your unique self. We all know that we tend to be highly influenced by society and by culture. And you all have ideas about what sex should be, what should be sexy and what should be arousing. We're surrounded by sexualized images and advertising. We're exposed to glamorized sex in the movies and exaggerated sex in mainstream pornography. We're steeped with misinformation about sex in general, and we develop this unrealistic expectation. All these unrealistic expectations about sex is the result. This bombardment of input about sex, about what sex is, what it should look like, and what we should want, can be completely a cutoff from accessing your own desires and your own needs. And understanding your individual desires and your individual needs is the key to creating your best possible sex life in your marriage and your ability to access your sexual energy to know how to use it in your life. When you know what turns you on, you gain access to the abundance of your creative energy. Sexual energy is creative energy because it can result in a new life. Sperm penetrating ovum, right? And that same sexual energy can be transmuted into creating amazing things in your life, in your marriage, inside and outside of the bedroom. Now, when you have a higher level of awareness about this, then you begin to experiment with safety. There are some ways to explore. And another way to explore is to take time to explore your own body, slowly and intentionally. You should know your own body better than anyone else. It's not only something that your doctor is privy to. Spend some time learning more about the physical side of your pleasure and arousal. Where and how do you like to be stimulated? What is the pace that you enjoy? What parts of your body respond to touch? How do you want to be touched? If you don't know this about yourself, how will you be able to communicate it to your spouse? Do you really want your spouse to guess? One last way that I'll share is to pinpoint the sexual dynamics that intrigue you. The mental aspects of pleasure hold a lot of power. And when we touched on sexual fantasies in last week's episode, it was because it's a powerful thing to really fantasize in our minds. It's been said over and over many times by many sex experts that the mind is the biggest sex organ because our mind is where our eroticism lives. Much of sex is more mental, even though the physical aspect of sex is very apparent and fun too. It's the meaning that you make of, what's happening. And it's the enjoyment of the particular dynamics of the sexual interaction with your spouse that gives you that discovery, that ability to discover your key arousals. And it's in alignment with last week's topic as well, so that you can get comfortable sharing your fantasies with your spouse so you can experiment, so you can cultivate and have that safe space where you can express your erotic desires and needs with your spouse, and they can do the same. Now, if you're at home right now watching this with your partner, what I want you to do is I want to invite you to take a moment right now to grab a pen and grab a notebook. Let this be your love notebook or your erotic notebook. We all know the benefits of journaling. And if you're married, you want to create a practice where you journal your fantasies and your desires to increase your comfort in communicating them and encouraging your spouse to do the same. Then you'll be able to create these openings to a more stimulating conversation, to that ability to really experiment with each other, to be open with each other, to not shy away from expressing your true needs and your true desires. When you create your own stories, these scenarios only include elements that arouse you. So by doing this, you just eliminate all of those stories that society takes us through. This awareness, will allow you to better understand your sexual energy and how you can transmute it. And as we get ready to take a quick break, I want to thank you for listening and supporting truly this conversation. It's heartwarming how much, it really is needed. And I want you to send your calls into the studio. If you have questions, call into the studio. If you're too shy to call in, then send them through WhatsApp. The numbers are right there on the screen. We're here to create this safe space to open up so that you can understand your sexual energy. You can understand your sexuality. This is such an important platform. And without you engaging, without you participating, then, it's just one-sided. So I love the questions that you're emailing me, but let's get engaged as we, really interact with each other. Take the opportunity right now to write down your questions. Take an opportunity right now to engage with your partner if you're with your partner. Begin this journaling practice and allow yourself to send in those questions, send in those comments. We're going to be taking a break and we'll be right back and continue this conversation.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Let's Talk About Sex. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Let's Talk About Sex.
Welcome back. And we've had a few questions come in, and there's a few questions that didn't get answered in the last episode that really are applicable to this show today as well. One of the questions that came in was a question, an anonymous caller was, calling in about sexual fantasies. Does mutual masturbation mean masturbating each other at the same time or masturbating individually at the same time? And it all depends on the experimentation that you want to step into. It all depends on the sexual fantasy that you want to experience. And this is why the tip of journaling together can be really helpful, because then you can really describe the desire that you have and you can communicate it more clearly. Both are actually very much okay. If you want to masturbate each other or if you want to masturbate individually in front of each other, this is a way of really stimulating and arousing for, that intimacy that will be expressed in a loving and caring way. So take the time to write down your fantasies, journal them, and share them with your partner. Another question that came in last week was an anonymous caller called in and said, my wife called me daddy, and fantasies about role play can make me feel uncomfortable. How can I express this to her without disappointing her? And this is where, it's not necessarily connected to an experience she had with her own father. It can be just an endearing term. So what you want to do is just dig a little deeper and ask questions. Where is it rooted? Where is this coming from? What is the need that you want to satisfy with this expression? And it allows you to really have this higher level of communication. As you can see, everything comes back to communication. Everything comes back to being able to feel comfortable and create that space where you're not suppressing your feelings, you're not suppressing your desires, you're not suppressing your emotions. So let's continue talking about experimenting with sexual transmutation. I first learned about sexual transmutation after reading Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. Sexual transmutation is taking the sexual energy that's building up inside of you and channeling it into something else. This is especially important for my brothers and sisters that are not married. Just because you're not married doesn't mean that you won't get sexually excited or sexually stimulated. It's going to happen. We go through puberty, even as children, children can get sexually stimulated. But it's when we don't talk about this subject that we don't understand how to use this energy, because it's a form of energy. So you want to understand how to channel your energy. And for you married couples, you will benefit from this too. With awareness, you can let that physical sexual energy build up, and you can purposely release it in a non-sexual way. You can, of course, if you're married, channel it directly into physical sex, as many couples do. And if you do need a little extra oomph of creative energy or physical might, holding off on the sex and using that energy elsewhere is the idea of sexual transmutation. Channeling it in a different direction to get a good outcome, to get a goal achieved, to get the results that you're looking for. This is similar to tantric sex, which is also all about sexual energy and sacred sexuality. Edging, for example, is a popular practice for men using the Tantra methods. And that's one of the ways of transmuting your sexual energy. Edging provides men the ability to explore their sexual pleasure and finish when it's right for them. An orgasm is just one part of how your body gets pleasure. The moments before can be just as pleasurable, and edging is a way to extend how long that buildup lasts. So understanding what edging is and how to do it opens up a whole other part of your sexual experience, your sexual experimentation with your spouse. And for those that are single, it gives you access to energy that can be used and not wasted. So what's the point of a control technique? With your spouse, the point is to make the sex last longer. For single brothers and single sisters, it's having the ability to understand your body better and to gain access to your creative energy that can be tapped into when you're working on a project or an endeavor that requires high levels of energy. How many times have you been frustrated because, you're single and you don't have an outlet for sex? How many times have you, had to follow through with a project or an endeavor where you felt exhausted and you didn't have the energy and you didn't understand why? And what you can hopefully begin to see is that when we're suppressing our sexual energy and when we don't know how to tap into it, we're just wasting this abundant energy that is a resource. So can you see the benefit? Can you see the benefit? So to learn how to transmute sexual energy, you have to get in touch with your body. Sexual energy exists on many levels. The physical level, the mental level, and the emotional level, and even the spiritual level. For us as Muslims, we know that before a man and a woman are intimate, you make a dua to Allah. You ask Allah for his protection. There's a deep spiritual component to our sexuality. And when you are not in a marriage, you still have access to that deep level of energy that you can tap into to, physically achieve what you want to achieve, mentally achieve what you want to achieve at the emotional level and at the spiritual level. Sexual transmutation requires a great deal of awareness, a great deal of self-awareness, particularly of your own sexuality, and understanding and believing that it's not wrong and it's not bad to feel sexually excited. We begin to suppress our sexual energy from the time we're children. If a little boy is playing with his penis, what happens? His hand gets slapped away and he's made to feel guilt and shame. If a little girl touches her vagina, she's told she's dirty, giving rise to the feelings of shame and guilt. So how do you channel that energy in a way that can allow you to really get the endeavors done that are important to you? How do you channel your transmuted energy to another endeavor? When you feel that you've harnessed your sexual energy and you're ready to channel it, you can immediately dive into areas of your life, you want to focus that energy on. One example of a direction to channel it is art. Maybe some of this can look like, painting, making music, or writing. If dance is an art form for you, perhaps you'll choreograph a dynamic dance piece. And you can create with that energy because sexual energy is creative energy. For anyone looking to make fitness gains, yes, you can channel your energy into something more athletic or physical. This is a more masculine approach. You're tapping into your masculine energy to achieve, your greatest fitness levels so that you can have your most fit body. If you're familiar with Wim Hof's technique, he teaches ways that will allow you to move through, will allow you to move that energy using breath work and ice cold plunges. For my married couples, make sure that you're tending to your sexual needs and your spouse's sexual needs. Once you've experienced transmuting your sexual energy, it can become addictive. And for my couples out there, you want to be aware of any addictive tendencies. We all want success in life, and we all want to achieve our goals. Yes, the key to success is persistence. So don't be afraid of your sexual drive. Experiment with your sexual energy and learn to harness it in. Sexual energy is powerful and precious and should not be wasted. It is, after all, a gift from Allah. So it's that vital essence of life and procreation. The power of it can be used to enhance physical health, mental vitality, creativity, and spiritual development. The bottom line is that you don't, have to be married to tap into your sexual energy, and our married couples can really benefit from learning how to tap into their sexual energy. So don't be afraid to reach out for help if you need support. Don't feel uncomfortable discussing this with your spouse. Learn to tap into it. And if you have any questions about today's topic, send them in. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you again for watching us, along with the whole team here at British Muslim TV. Thank you for joining us. Assalamu alaikum, and we'll see you next week.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Let's Talk About Sex.